Alright, so I'm recording a second video of the night since I've been meaning to get to this one as well for a while. This is another YouTuber Fist of the North Star video, BD Voro. A bit of a low subscriber count, so if you like Fist of the North Star content, I know he's done more in the past, so definitely check it out. And if you like his content, definitely subscribe. His video editing, from what I remember, is pretty solid as well. Seems I'm the one who's lacking in that department these days. So this is his top 10 strongest Hokuto no Ken fighters, which, that's right here. This one right here is kind of poking shade at the most popular one, which I do agree is a little strange because if you look up top 10 fighters, it's just this one, which doesn't really like explain all that much about why. But so yeah, so make sure to subscribe. We're gonna check out his video. I've seen a little bit of it. I have some disagreements, but I'll talk about where those disagreements come from and try to explain how these kind of like disagreements come about in this series.
BD Voro here, and today I'm doing a surprisingly highly requested video, that being the top 10 strongest characters in Hokuto no Ken. And it makes sense as recently I did one for Naruto and Boruto. I'm known for being a Hokuto no Ken YouTuber, as well as Uchiha Clan versus Hokuto no Ken is in progress, so it does make sense to make this video.
Wait, hang on. He has a screw attack debunk video on the Kenshiro versus Jotaro video. Yeah, it does have one. You know, I actually have not seen this one. I might check that out later because I disagree with how he scales Fist of the North Star. Anyway, let's check it out.
Now there are a couple of things to note before we hop into today's video. The first thing is this list is strictly Hokuto no Ken, okay? Not Souten, not Regenesis, not some 90s live action movie, or any of that random stuff you guys see on TV, okay? Hokuto no Ken. The reason for this, you may be asking, is because including Souten on the list gets into high amounts of controversy, not to mention it spoils some of my scaling for Hokuto no Ken versus Uchiha Clan. The other thing to note here is that we're going to be basing this list off of caliber of fighters. What I mean by this is not every character in the show is a bunch of bulky chat anime characters that just smash things. Some characters have abilities and hacks that do extend their stats beyond the raw idea of how hard do they punch. I also want to bring up this list is subject to change. I tend to change my opinions when I go back and reread some of the fights and take a look back at the scaling. So this isn't the most objective top 10 list, as I could see myself disagreeing with myself now, at least 6 months down the line. So with those things out of the way, let's get on with today's video.
So regarding Blue Sky, or Souten no Ken is it's technically called. Blue Sky is hard to discuss because you either decide that the North Star cast in the main series scales way above it, and that's technically correct. They should be stronger than Ryukin, but Ryukin was weaker than Kasumi. And there is statements from Koryu that they'd be like successors in any, or like they'd be perfect successors in another era, which would most likely mean that like they would have been chosen over Kasumi. There's also the fact on the table for Blue Sky is that you can really only scale Kasumi Kenshiro at the end of the series to the North Star cast, because throughout the Blue Sky story, he's getting stronger and as a better fighter. So, like, as much as I like Mong, you can't really say Mong would square up effectively against a lot of the North Star cast.
So starting off the list, we have the third general of Ashura in Han. Han gets severely downplayed in the franchise, mainly due to Part 1 fans of the series that suck off Raoh. Han in the
Okay, so that's actually funny. So let's talk about that for a minute. So there are kind of two ways you scale Fist of the North Star from what I've seen on the internet. You're either treated like Dragon Ball Z, where every character who comes later on is usually stronger than the people who came before, give or take some exceptions. Or you treat it like they're all comparable to each other based off statements, guidebook evidence, and like honestly what seems like authorial intent, given the fact that even by the end of the series, Kenshiro claims that Raoh let him win and that Raoh was a better fighter than him. That I think he even says Raoh's fist was stronger than mine.
The fight against Kenshiro does very well. While he doesn't win, he is constantly pushing around a Kenshiro that is getting stronger and improving, as stated by Sachi.
Okay, so first off,
constantly pushing around.
It is not stated by Sachi, it's stated by Rin. That's like not really an important mistake. But this is where it gets complicated when you talk about Kenshiro getting stronger in fights. Is like Han up until the very end is practically 1-to-1 with Kenshiro. In fact, the reason Han loses is because he chooses the wrong pressure points to lace up during the fight. Kenshiro chooses to lace up his eyes. Han like disables his legs. They are like it is confirmed Han is weaker than him during the fight, but it's like they're practically neck and neck in every like observable media like category. So it's like if Kenshiro's getting stronger, again, this is where it gets into the complications of like, do you scale like Dragon Ball Z or not? Because he's not getting like a Goku power amp. If he is getting stronger, it's something a lot more like, you know, casual.
Around a Kenshiro that is getting stronger and improving, as stated by Sachi. This is also shown as well by Kenshiro using his ki and firing it in a long stride, something we've never seen Ken do prior to this fight. This fight is also pretty impressive.
Are we going to ignore the Souther fight?
Can do prior to this fight. Can do prior
Hang
to
on,
this
let me
fight
what's this?
by Kenshiro using his ki and firing it in a long stride, something we've never seen Ken do prior to this.
Yeah, he does it in the Souther fight. Like that's the whole point of that technique. He fires ki, an invisible ki blast at Souther. So that's technically wrong, but I get what he's saying.
This fight is also pretty impressive as well because Ken, after his battle against Falco, gets an increase in power. Ken, when dying on the ground from exhaustion, is then able to get back up and block the attack, and is unfazed when Jaco orders an arrow strike on both Ken and...
Okay, so what happens is Kenshiro gets motivated by his soldiers and proceeds to like get up and like block the arrows. He is injured. I wouldn't say Kenshiro got stronger though. The problem is that Kenshiro states throughout most of the fight that he's not using his secret techniques against Falco because the second he does, Falco will die. So you could just argue that at this point, it's not that Ken got stronger, he just decided to go 100%.
Falco. Now, if you're a crazy man and think,
you know, Kenshiro dodging some arrows doesn't mean he got stronger.
While I agree a bunch of arrows don't mean anything to Ken when he's healthy, that's not the case here. Ken and Falco are tired and are covered in blood on the ground. It should be common knowledge that when you as a person get done in a very close fight with a bunch of injuries, you're not that same as that peak version of you.
That is fair, but again, like if you've read the Falco fight, Ken's consistently having statements of holding back, so you could just argue that Ken just went 100% here. There's no like in the manga anyway. There's no evidence he went 100%. You could argue maybe like an aura around him, but again, he does state during the fight that the second you see the secret techniques is the second you die, and Falco himself even states you could have killed me multiple times during the fight.
What this means here is that Kenshiro received a post-fight increase, or in Dragon Ball they call it a Zenkai.
Again, that's okay.
A stronger Kenshiro that isn't leg reduced and in base form is just...
Well, so actually, that's a good point. Is like his leg would still be like his. So Kenshiro shuts down his leg to fight Falco fairly, and he never breaks that pressure point to our knowledge. Now, granted, you could just argue he did it without taking the pressure point or off panel, but it's like that's never actually stated.
Stronger and is around the same strength as Han, if not weaker at the start, and then Han.
He's not weaker than Han at the start. He literally tags Han, and Han didn't even realize he did it.
Han can then match a Kenshiro that is getting stronger until Kenshiro overpowers Han. And to be honest, Han just as a fighter is beyond what Kenshiro has faced prior to this point. This might get the Rao fans upset, however, Rao just loses to a weaker Kenshiro, and while yes, Kenshiro doesn't use Musou Tensei to beat Han, the difference in base form is still there. It's kind of like...
No, hang on. I'm gonna hang on. Let's just address this right now. Hang on. Before we continue any further, let me just pull this up real quickly. Nope. All right. Let's get this out of the way right now. The way he's talking about how Rao loses. Let's talk about that real quickly. Let's see here. Is it this one? It's near the very end. Like, it's a statement near the very end of the series. Okay. Hang on. Where is it? No man has ever been able to place God. Yes, one man did. The man conquered it. Keno. We'll also talk about the Han fight as well, real quickly. All right. So Kenshiro's like, all right, gotta fight me. Kenshiro casually beats shit out of him. Here we go. Your fist is nothing compared to Rao's. What? You know Rao? He was a powerful man who gave up his might for the sake of love. He wished to rule the world and failed. What is this? Take this. Taste an attack far more powerful than what Satori received. Kenshiro casually beats it. And then we get, listen, even though his fists surpassed mine, Rao could never surpass God. Why? Rao knew that the ultimate salvation of man rested not on violence but on love. Not only that, he knew that the escalation of violence would never stop, and so to stop escalation, he confronted my fist, and he decided to let himself be defeated. So, like, he says sucking off Rao, but Kenshiro himself directly states that Rao's fist surpassed Kenshiro's, and that Rao let himself be beaten. Even if you want to argue about his fist surpassing only meaning at the point they fought, that's fine. But let's be clear here, Rao let himself be defeated. As stupid as that is in the manga, the anime does a better job of conveying this, but as stupid as it is in the manga, that is canonical. Rao let himself lose. Kenshiro didn't beat him. I know I don't like it the way it's handled in the manga. I think the anime handled it a lot better, but that is canon. Like, let's not ignore that fact.
Saying base form Goku from the TOP loses to Super Saiyan 3 Goku from the Buu Saga simply because of there's a stronger form. Now, while I'm not agreeing the difference between the two Kenshiros is the same as the difference in power in that analogy, but
I mean, he basically is. If we're being honest, that's basically how you'd have to argue this.
what I am saying is that it is just some basic level argumentation to say, when can that weaker form beat a stronger form? And once again, many people
We're talking Muso Tensei here, which basically negs the verse. The only fucker who could stand up to it, unironically, was Kaio.
like to downplay Part 2 Hokuto no Ken because Ken became rusty. However, that is pretty
That's fair.
debatable. All we know between
Not the rusty part. It's fair that people do downplay part 2. I think that's fair. So we can argue the whole he's rusty due to depression is not Mon canon. Even then, there's arguments to say that he got the rust off anyways. Note, this is Ken's first appearance in the manga, where unlike in the anime, we don't follow him around where he's hiding due to his depression. Yes, that is true. Except we do have chapters showing what Ken was doing, and Ken had stopped fighting for years. I do think by the time he fought Hondo, he would not be rusty.
the 2 points is that Yuria wasn't around the full time and Ken was wandering around. You could make the case he just stopped fighting because he was depressed due to Yuria's death. However,
Okay, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and not to be a dick or anything, but just to show. I think it's this one. Or is this after the Kaio? Yeah, it's after Kaio. Hang on, we gotta go back a little further. Where is it? I think it's still a little farther back. Hang on. Here we go. Last piece. So just to provide some more context here, I don't think this was like readily available when this guy made the video. To be fair, he made it back in November 9th. I don't know when this actually got added. Hang on. So this is what Kenshiro's been doing the entire time since his death. He's been sculpting a statue of Yuria. I brought food. You haven't eaten for 3 days. So he's starving himself consistently. And he has become an empty shell. Yuria-sama's soul took his soul with her. Again, he's not doing anything. He's depressed. I love how Souther's not present for this one, but Shin is. Poor Shu. Yeah, no, so he's not really fighting or anything. Hang on, let's see here. We'll see Kenshiro like try and be like, or we'll see him try to motivate Kenshiro to actually fight. Hey, look, Kenshiro's looking at his hands. And he's given up the will to fight or do anything. So, no, let's be clear here. For these entire 20 minutes, it is not exactly, like, he's not exactly being a chill person. He's not doing anything. He's given up his, I no longer have the right. Yeah, no, he's become depressed. He's not doing anything. He won't even fight back. Yeah, my fist now disgusts me. Yeah, see, that's the thing. He doesn't really. He just gets depressed and he stopped fighting as soon as Yuria died. That would at least be like a 15-year time gap, probably when Yuria died, because I think she only had a few years left to live. I think Fist of the North Star Part 2 takes place 20 years after the first one. I could be wrong on that.
You could also argue that just makes his technique rusty, not really his power. And even if Ken
He's literally given up everything. Now, so this is where it gets weird. Age affecting power in Fist of the North Star is weird. We don't have too many examples of it occurring. And every example we have, the old person didn't really give up the way Kenshiro did. Now, I'm not going to say Kenshiro got weaker, again, because I think all the fighters are comparable to each other. I just think that, yeah, Kenshiro probably had some rust on him.
did get rusty, you could say his battle against Solia and the Colosseum fight wore off that rust.
Solia, yes. The Colosseum fight, not really. That guy did, like, nothing to him.
With Ken then getting much stronger after those fights.
I'm still not seeing where the Zenkai boost randomly comes from.
All in all, to say Rao
Again, even if he got a little bit stronger, it's not saying much.
over Han is pretty fan-based, and Han does deserve this 10th spot.
No, it's okay. So let's go a little further. So he keeps bringing up the Han fight. Let's go ahead and go to the Han fight real quickly, because there's some piece of information he's not going over, which I don't really understand why he's not. Let me see. We went too far back. Let me see here. I think it's no, that's too far. Where is it? The promise made to Asuka, good tears of warrior, internal dangers, pray onward to land, mask ambition, man, devour the dead, race to darkness, to the most surpassed ambition as peak. Where is the Han fight at, actually? Okay, so I don't think he's fought in Han yet, has he? I am sorry about this. I'm just like, I really should write down at some point where the fuck these fights take place. Okay, so Muso Tensei. Okay, so definitely before this. Here we go. I think it's the Legend of Destiny. Our strength may be equal, but with their own will be no draw. I see, blood spraying, even without being able to see their fists, they're hurting each other. I can see it clearly. Kenshiro was splendid. Hang on. By spilling blood of hers, I make sure my fist becomes extremely powerful. Hang on. Once upon a time, and now still there exists a legend of a savior, not Kenshiro over legend of another man. So hang on, he's gonna go on a little bit here. Sorry, a bit of a tirade. His name is Rao. Rao, you know him, Lin? In that case, now you're witnessing the unimaginable. Their fist touched for the first time. He really is an incredible man. Ken is the man that defeated that very Rao. What did you say? So just to clarify, for some context, Sachi is convinced at this point that he can he's basically the only reason he's worried about fighting Han is because he couldn't see his fist. The anime does explain a little better, but he's prepared to fight Han at this point. And looking at Sachi's reaction, that man can surely tell me he beat Rao. Rao, impossible. So Sachi's prepared to kill Han. He's not surprised about Han dying. Like none of that's crazy to him. The idea of Rao losing a fight and losing to Kenshiro is like a crazy idea to him. And he's already become a pretty solid master of Hokuto Ryuken. And nothing he's seeing here is making him react like that. I can't believe it. That Rao was defeated. That invincible Rao. Yeah, no. So even Sachi, as a master of Hokuto Ryuken, who can see Han fight and is watching this entire fight, is more stunned, not by Kenshiro beating Han in a fight, but he's more shocked that Rao could have ever been defeated. And keep in mind that by this point, Sachi should be well aware of how power in this series works and how martial arts training works. So him holding Rao to that high standard should be a credible source that Rao is actually still a pretty significant threat, if not still stronger than someone like Han. Hang on. Yeah, look at Rao just casually showing it. The God of War, he was truly a fighting demon. I don't believe it. Rao couldn't have been defeated. Yeah, no. Again, Sachi, who was watching Han lose casually, like it's no big deal, is basically fucking again, just stunned at the fact that Rao could have been beaten. I understand the idea this guy's going for, that the characters get stronger over time, but the problem is that clearly the writer did not intend for that to be the case. And again, the official guidebook, or at least the Fist of North Star guidebook that you can find on the wiki, you can't find the wiki, but like you can find character stats, do support that like interpretation.
Now we're entering controversial territory. At number 9, I'm placing Sachi here. Sachi is interesting because his best feats come in the form of his fights, and he then loses those fights. One of Sachi's best feats is holding off Kaio in his first exchange. Now while Kaio destroys Sachi in that first fight, what's impressive about this is that he does a comparable job to what Musou Tensei Ken did. This Kenshiro being post-spot Han Kenshiro, and then put Musou Tensei on top of it. Now while I will say Sachi did worse than Kenshiro, not putting Sachi quite on that same tier as that Ken, Sachi does get stronger. Sachi
This isn't a power example, my guy. This is a technique example. Kenshiro couldn't beat the Demon Aura, and he couldn't beat the freaking Anrei Tenha at the time. This has nothing to do with raw power. Kaio just legitimately countered him blow for blow. I mean, I get the idea here, and I think Sachi above Han is arguable, certainly.
battle against Han and Kenshiro couldn't even see Kenshiro and Han's fist, and had to rely on the blood moving around to follow their fist. Sachi later on can keep up with a more tired demon form Hyo and Kenshiro, with an even weaker Hyo being able to fight off against Kaio's 300 personal elite Ashuras. A good representation.
Ashuras do not scale linearly. That we do not, because again, keep in mind that like the North Star army is able to make it through the island of Asura, which means they had to have killed several named Asura.
Of how strong these Ashuras are. A single no-name Ashura is able to force Falco into his Sakatsu points, forcing Falco to get stronger. With a name.
Okay, he's leaving out some context there. Falco was severely injured during that fight, and on top of that, the only reason he had trouble was just because he was injured and he lost his leg.
Named Ashura bodying hundreds of regular Ashura, with a single elite Ashura being above the captains of Ashuras, Kaiser, with Kaiser being above named Ashuras. Once again, a weaker Hyo, due to him being even tired and injured, is able to carry the fight with Black Yakusha and beat 300 of them. With a stronger Hyo, the demon form Hyo that's also tired, Sachi is a
Stronger is debatable. We don't know if Hyo actually got weaker after like calming down, because Kenshiro was more in danger of the true North Star fighting style than he was against Hokuto Ryuken in this fight.
able to then follow that stronger Hyo's combat speed and even pierce his body when Hyo wasn't looking.
That's a surprise attack. So basically, Hyo's moving in for attack on Kenshiro, and Sachi's like, shit, I gotta get involved, otherwise Ken might die. And then he stabs him through the chest like you just saw.
Now, I'm not saying Sachi scales to full power Hyo, as Sachi still isn't even a threat to base Kaio when they face later on. Overall, Sachi just scales above Han in some way, shape, or form.
Again, that's debatable. Like, Han is also a general of Asura who has, like, also statements on that level and such. I do think you can argue that Sachi could beat Han, maybe.
At number 8,
But again, that's highly unlikely, and even like the official guidebook doesn't support that interpretation. You're kind of ignoring Han's own like actual like skill.
I'm gonna place Baron here. Surprisingly, I'm not seeing too many Hokuto no Ken fans really talk about Baron, which
We already saw him. Kenshiro manhandled him, said his like fist was worthless and shit.
makes me think not many people know about him. Baron in his fight against Kenshiro was able to tag and injure Kenshiro, this Kenshiro being the end of series Kenshiro.
I want to point out that all these fighting styles are hyper lethal, so being tagged by any of them, regardless of power, kind of puts you in a bad position.
Which is post Kenshiro being statue absorbed Kenshiro, where he absorbed the statue of Hokuto. I know, a lot of pronouns. With an even weaker and unconscious Kenshiro being able to merely exist and force Kaio onto the ground, basically suffocating him.
There's a lot of context there. Okay, the main North Star bloodline fucks with Hokuto Ryuken's Demon Aura to the point where whenever Kaio gets close to the main North Star family setup, it fucks with his body. In fact, when he goes to the statue, his veins turn black and his body starts like fucking freaking out. Along with his Demon Aura, if I recall correctly. So that is not necessarily just an AP thing. There is something else going on there.
Showing this Kenshiro is more effective than anything Sachi has even done. Baron is also able to make Kenshiro bleed, albeit this Kenshiro isn't at his peak and isn't
Again, I would like to point out that, like, if Kenshiro got hit by, like, even a weaker Nanto fighter, he would still bleed.
using Muso Tensei or any other empowering techniques. Many people like to downplay Baron because of Kenshiro's comparison statements to Rao, like the example of Kenshiro comparing Baron's techniques to Rao's. However, this doesn't necessarily mean Baron is weaker than Rao, as you could argue Rao has more mastery over a technique, not that he can hit harder. And in terms of scaling, it really wouldn't make much sense.
Let's go back here for a minute. Hang on. Just a minute. So, no, right here. What do you think you do, fool? With your little weak little physique too, you can't even reclaim her from my clutches. Saratoga, I can be a weakling like you without even touching you. Do you understand? You have to be strong. Without me, she can't be protected. I'm the only one who can surpass God. In any case, no man has ever been able to replace God. Yes, one man did. The man who conquered the world, the titan named Keno. So even from the context of his own statements, he is claiming that Rao achieved a level of power and ability that he hasn't achieved yet. Okay, Barry, if you're really planning on replacing God, then you have to defeat me first. Ken, you still don't get it, even after seeing the difference in our abilities. I only need one arm to rip you apart. This is the problem with Kenshiro, is like he's never really like at 100% ready to throw down whenever people fight him. And just for context, to be as fair as possible, let's go back a chapter. Let's show the actual fight here, just to show like the full context. So that way we're not being fallacious. Hang on. What constant? Okay, so here we go. Here's Sachi using the hard fist technique. Or not Sachi, my bad. Baron, not Sachi. Again, like, I'm not saying Baron's weak, although according to the actual, like, official character ratings, he is a B tier. Like, he has good techniques, but that's all he has. Again, he's using Rao's fighting style. This is the first time we've seen a weaker character use Rao's fighting style. Yeah. So that's him basically beating him up. Again, like Kenshiro gets caught off guard as well during the first one as well. He gets caught off guard because like it's a different technique. He like kind of fakes out a North Star technique. Again, you can just argue Kenshiro just being caught off guard here because he's seeing his dead brother's fist for like the first time in forever. Let's see. So this is like the first encounter. Is that stance? It is Hokuto Shinken's, Seichi Tenso. Again, so he's caught off guard and he still manages to catch him like off, but again, this is the problem, is that he just gets caught off guard by Hokuto appearing. And again, as we find out, he's using Rao's fighting style and he gets caught off guard even further. To the point where once he figures out what's going on and once he's kind of chilled out, he's basically just like, yeah, no, we can handle this with literally just one hand, casually fucking beats him, no diff. Again, your fist is nothing compared to Rao's. Like, the series could still not, like, even the guys basically saying, like, no, it's impossible.
To say Rao is this high, because you would then have to argue Rao, while unconscious, is able to force Kaio on his knees.
Again, there's a lot more context there.
While not even a stronger Kenshiro with Muso Tensei could do when
dude, Onrei Tenha literally countered Muso Tensei. This is just a technique-based situation.
With an even weaker Kenshiro beating Rao.
Dude, you literally... Hang on. Let me go back real quickly. You literally show the panel...
Comparison statements to Rao, like
that fucking Rao let himself be beat. Why are you still talking about Rao like he fucking got beat, like, legitimately?
While unconscious, is able to force Kaio on his knees, while not even a stronger Kenshiro with Muso Tensei could do when conscious, with an even weaker Kenshiro beating Rao. So once again, not a contradiction, and this can be applied as an anti-feat against...
It's not an anti-feat. He just doesn't scale. Like, don't get me wrong. You can make arguments Baron could probably beat quite a bit of the cast members, maybe, but, like, even then, like, I mean, come on. You literally showed the panel where, like, I don't mind the scaling chain being different for like, okay, so they get stronger like Dragon Ball Z style. But why all this trash talking about Rao, man? Like, he literally let Kenshiro win. That's canon. I know it's stupid, but that's canon.
It's Baron. Fortunately, Baron is one of these easy characters that are pretty cut and dry. Going on to number 7 now.
Again, all that context I showed about Baron, literally considering Rao stronger than him, and Rao surpassing God, and he hasn't yet, stuff like that. But okay.
Yes, Saiji. Now I want to emphasize
I can't really say much about this one because I've only seen, like, the novels are different.
that could be higher or lower is in place here, as neither Soul or I have read the novel form of the movie. Just like with Sachi, Saiji is another interesting character. Saiji is able to fight against a decent trying Kenshiro, this Kenshiro being post Hokuto no Ken's manga, which is about the same level as end of series Kenshiro. Maybe you can argue post manga Kenshiro
I'd have to rewatch the fight. I'm not gonna say too much on this one though.
is stronger after the series, but that isn't too important here. Many people like to say Saiji isn't strong because he didn't force Kenshiro to go all out in base, or force him to use Musou Tensei, but that doesn't really mean he's weak or shouldn't be on the list.
Again, I'd like to point out that Kenshiro does like fight people more or less on their level, unless like they kind of like piss him off.
Kenshiro does give Saiji credit by saying he's strong and ask him why his fists are so strong, while no other statements are given to Baron or Sachi. And although I haven't read the novel like I said earlier, if you take some of the scans at face value, Saiji seems to be quite a bit stronger than his movie counterpart. The only really anti-feat I can give to Saiji is Kenshiro making fun of his fist for being a cheap knockoff of Hokuto Shinken's. I put Saiji over Baron because Kenshiro at least went into Tenryu Kokuho, which does increase his strength and speed. Compare this to Baron, who kinda fights a vague base form Kenshiro. This just makes Saiji's spot more concrete. Saiji again could be higher or lower depending on what actually happens in the novels and when Soul translates that, but for right now Saiji takes 7.
Yeah, it's not really one I'm gonna contest too much on.
At number 6, I'm going to place Juge here. Juge, when old and out of his prime, is then able to beat down first appearance Hyo. Hyo being stated stronger than Kenshiro, with this Kenshiro beating Han.
That is not what is stated. That is not what is stated. Hang on. Let's see here. So he's referring to this statement right here. It's near the end of this fight. There we go. You're strong, worthy of the man who defeated Rao. However, you'll never be able to defeat Hyo, the second general. What do you mean? Only Rao can beat General Hyo, even if you're stronger than Rao. So this is meant. So the reason this is stated, and this is described throughout the actual next couple of chapters, is Hyo is Kenshiro's blood brother. It's basically the reason Kenshiro can't beat Hyo in a fight is because he can't come to kill his own brother. That's kind of the idea being presented here. Speaking of which, regarding him being Hyo in his first encounter, let me actually go to that manga chapter real quickly. Here we go. I think this is it. I want to give you guys like the full fight before like I actually fucking go continue on with the video here, because this one's a little whack, I would say personally. Okay, let's see. You look at the fight's about to start. Nope. We barely did not start. I can't pause the video. I'm sorry, guys. This program doesn't let you pause videos for some reason during mid-recording. It's a little annoying. Come on. Okay. So here Hyo moves in. Juki dodges the attack. Hyo hits Juki. Juki panics and is clearly stressed out by the impact and gets sent flying through the wall. And then we see Juki use magic on him. And impossible, you already have a way to defeat me in my body. Again, so he doesn't really beat Hio in a fight. He had it pre-planned out, and Hio catches him off and catches him and beats him in the little encounter we see.
This puts Juke in this vague spot between Muso Tensei Ken and base form Kaio. This once again being when he's older and between Muso.
All right, so let's go and hear his reasoning again, real briefly. Hang on.
Juke, when old and out of his prime, is then able to beat down first appearance Hio. Hio being
Again, I'd like to reiterate again. This is what he means by beat down. You know, I don't want to be that guy, but Juki does not scale this high. Like, at least not old Juki. You want to argue me prime Juki? Maybe. But, like, dude, this could not be more clear.
being stated stronger than
Also, Hokuto Ryuken's magic is fucking weird.
Kenshiro, with this Kenshiro beating Han. This puts Juke in this vague spot between Muso Tensei Ken and base form Kaio. This once again being when he's older and out of his prime. We then get flashbacks of Juke when he's younger and in his prime,
Alright.
and we see him in a demon form.
That's true.
Now, the demon forms have various levels of power depending on your stage, but
Mhm.
something to note is that they tend to buff your base form, and
Yeah.
you can also access the form as well. Think about it like the God form in Dragon Ball Super or Six Paths in Naruto. Now, Juke
I disagree with that a little bit. Because the demon aura would be active at all times once you get it, once you're fighting.
Toki stage, which later characters can use to rival stronger forms of Muso Tensei. But Juke
Muso Tensei's not a power amp. Why is he talking about like it's a Super Saiyan technique? Or Super Saiyan transformation?
entered the Dark World, which is above the first stage of just having a pure aura of a demon, putting Prime Juke far above what Hyo could even dream of at this point. With Hyo being around the level that Ken faces Kaio, Juke has access to some pretty strong techniques that can casually hold down Hyo. He also
Again, like... No! Okay, so I'm just gonna throw this out right now. Prime Juki in Demon Aura gets beat casually by Ryuken in one hit. And honestly, it's debatable he even enters the Demon World. It's debatable he even enters the Dark World. Here, you know what? Let's see what the manga has to say on this one, because I think the manga panels actually do tell a different story. Here we go. Oh, you know what? Hey, let's take a look at actually the fight continuing. So, here's Hio breaking out of Juki's... here's Juki hitting with magic. He does break out of it later on, but right here. You can see right here he's breaking out of it. Grabs it. Tosses him aside. So, let's go into right here. This is past Hio. I found myself at the gates of Hokuto Ryuken Hell. Where's Ryuken, the successor? That's on with their own two hands. The final world that awaits Hokuto Ryuken. It seems as if one who enters Hell takes on Del Shapiro because Juki have already fallen into it. His key is fighting. If I want to defeat him, it's now or never before he truly masters the power of Hell. You could argue that this would probably scale to Hio, again being generous here, but Kaio in particular, his demon aura and his actual abilities are far superior to Juki's, by Juki's own admission.
also has access to Onryu Tenha, one of the strongest attacks in Hokuto Ryuken history, and is revered as well as feared across the land. It's just very clear that Juke does catch this cliff.
Again,
Now at number
didn't really demonstrate anything significant in the fight as I already showed.
5, it would only make sense.
And the only reason he beat Hio... you know, actually, let's actually continue that fight for a minute. So here is here he is losing to Ryuken, the guy he's about to talk about right now, in like one hit. However, it's a specific technique designed to negate magic. It did fuck up with Ryuken though. That's fair. And we'll have the fight continuing. Here we go. Do you understand? Hokuto Ryuken creates devils, and now General Kaio is the biggest devil of all, rolling over this hell. That would be including himself in that statement. Kaio's armor isn't for protection. It serves to contain the evil key that gushes out against his will. As soon as that armor is destroyed, disaster of immeasurable proportions will take place. So, hang on. Let's see how that fight ends real quickly. Well, actually, I'm just going to tell you right now, like, Hio just kills him, no diff. After the fight's said and done. Here we go. Here it is. So, he's using magic once more to unlock the secret. However, he does fail because of his old age. and then Hio just like kind of beats him, like because again he doesn't really scale at this point at all. And to be fair, the reason he mainly fails in freeing Hio's memory, in case you're wondering, is because Kaio already planned for that.
To follow up Juke with Ryuken. Ryuken is also one of these short characters to go over, as he has feats when he's an old man, but those feats aren't really too necessary here. But what is necessary is Ryuken's feats when he's at his prime. Ryuken, when he's in his prime, bodies Juke when he was in his demon form and didn't allow him to further evolve.
Yeah.
In the anime, Ryuken two-shots Juke and leaves Juke unconscious, but in the manga he does a little bit more, albeit not significant enough to say Ryuken didn't body Juke at all. I've seen some people downplay Ryuken.
Again, just to clarify once more, he literally uses a North Star technique specifically designed. What? Has this all been one chapter so far? Again, he uses a specific technique designed to beat him, and he gets hit, gets like severely damaged, and decides that it's now or never, and then proceeds to use the magic neutralizing strike. Again, this is a technique that counter Hokuto Ryuken. The North Star is aware of Hokuto Ryuken. Like,
Ryuken and claim things like, if Ryuken is so strong, then why did he lose to Rao? The problem with this is that Ryuken at this point in his life was older and was also dying due to being outside during nuclear warfare.
okay, okay, dude, do not, no, do not use guidance scans. No, bro, you've been ignoring the guidance this entire time. Come on now.
Causing Ryuken to get heart attacks.
That's not what happened. He was just dying of old age. It's fine. You don't have to put the nuclear bombs in.
When he faced Rao. And I don't think I need
I do agree with that. He loses to Rao just because of the heart attack. He would have beat Rao's ass. But Rao confirms, and Kenshiro basically confirms, that Rao got stronger during their fight in Mamiya's village.
explain why that Ryuken is obviously weaker than a stronger, younger, and healthier version of himself.
I think that's fair to say that this Prime Ryuken is stronger, although you could argue that older Ryuken's more skilled.
Overall, it's really ratty to put Rao this high or Ryuken really low because Rao killed him.
Again, like, what is with the Rao hate? Like, damn, dude.
Now this one at number 4 will probably be a little bit more shocking, but at number 4 I'm putting Toki here. This placement I can see being very controversial, however please listen to the arguments given and not immediately go be biased, and ignore everything I say because of your
Let me tell you right now, boy, if you're using Prime Toki and he's not number 2, we have a problem.
feelings though. Toki, when practically on his deathbed, activates his Sakatsu points and is able to fight Rao and keep up with him at points, and at points even beating him. Rao does.
Let us be clear here. Toki won this fight consistently. If it wasn't for plot armor, Rao would have died.
Win, however, the part that he can push Rao while being on his deathbed due to his illness is very telling.
Make no mistake, a Prime Toki would beat up everybody in the verse. I love Souther and shit, but Prime Toki's looking at Souther and Souther blows up.
It's very similar to Ryuken, however, it's more in the favor of Toki because Toki does better. Now, this on his own doesn't.
Toki does better? Are you fucking kidding me? I'm sorry, hang on, just for context here, let's take a look at those panels once more. Or let's take a look at that. So, here is one hit from Ryuken.
Very telling. It's very similar to Ryuken, however, it's more in the favor of Toki because Toki does better. Now this
Ryuken literally practically one-shot Rao and only didn't kill him because, like, you're my son, I'm gonna seal your fist away, don't be a dick. Toki actually fully trying to kill. Now, don't get me wrong, Rao got stronger. Like, Rao does get stronger before he fights Kenshiro from after this point. I'm just pointing out that if you're gonna argue the fights being comparable in terms of, like, ability, then, like, Ryuken put up a better fight.
This on his own doesn't put Toki in the top 10 conversations, let alone top 5 talks, and because
It absolutely does.
of this, I was considering making a Toki video, but this is talking about a weakened and dying Toki. How about Toki in his prime? Toki in his prime is interesting because he has a lot of lore, but not a lot of feats. He was the prime candidate over both Kenshiro and Rao. However, what's really noteworthy is what happens after his prime. In the Legend of Toki, it's shown Toki got 2 different forms of illnesses, one of them being the sudden illness he got at the very beginning of the film, and the other one being when he was
Yeah, so this one's a little weird, because OVA information's debatable if it's canon or not. The mobile game seems to be calling from it, so you could argue it's more canon, but it's a little weird.
exposed to nuclear.
I will say that if you assume the guidance are all canon, this does explain why Toki got affected by nuclear radiation when characters like Jaggy didn't.
Warfare, just like with Ryuken. Now this comparison
Again, no! Ryuken Gaiden directly contradicts the main manga. You can't reconcile that one.
to Ryuken is key because both got ill after they were exposed to nuclear warfare. If you look at Ryuken and compare him to Juke, someone who was seen as a rival around the same age, but just from another school, Ryuken bodied Juke when he was in his demon form, as I said earlier. With Ryuken older and with the illness is then losing to a pre-start of series Rao. You then look at Juke, where Juke, when he was older, is able to beat first appearance Hyo, who
I've already shown the panels.
once again Han saying that Hyo is stronger than the Kenshiro at that time.
Okay, so I love the fact how he doesn't actually show the panel, the correct panel.
That Hyo is stronger than the Kenshiro at that.
This is the wrong panel. This is literally just talking about how Kenshiro survived on the boat. I don't want to be that guy because the editing's better than my videos, even if he did get the wrong panels, and I do like the effort he's put into the video. But, come on, my guy, this is a bit of an oversight here.
Time. Why I'm pointing this out is because Juke and Ryuken have very similar lifestyles we see by training the next generation. So it is very strange that the weaker out of the two is now casually.
Oh, you know what? I'm actually wondering if that's supposed to be, no, by this point, Juki's old, never mind.
Casually outperforming and performing better feats than the stronger one of the two at the start.
Again, Hyo was not putting up a good. He was not putting up a good fight. I showed you the manga panels. Moving
Why
on.
is that, you might be asking? And this is due to the fact that Ryuken obtaining an illness even on top of aging, which is why Ryuken
He just had a heart attack from old age, my guy. What's with all this nuclear bomb bullshit?
got so much
You can't reconcile Ryuken Gaiden with the canon. It's too out there.
weaker than Juke, even though they were both getting older. We can then apply this to Toki as
You know what? He must be using the anime fights to support his reasoning. Anime fights upgrade everybody.
well, and Toki, who had similar feats with Ryuken before they both died, and this puts Toki in this tier with Ryuken as well. Not to mention, as I said earlier, Toki doesn't have just that illness as well, but he has the illness prior to the nuclear warfare, putting Toki higher than Ryuken. You could argue as well by saying Toki was amped by his Sakatsu points, but you could also just take away Toki's first illness he obtained and they both cancel each other out as they both vaguely increase and decrease Toki's strength here. That part doesn't really matter as Toki's first illness is just icing on the cake to put Toki only higher. On top of this, Toki's a top tier medic and you could argue that.
Hey, buddy. If we're still arguing old man Toki scales to these people, Toki was too weak to fight Rao. Toki landed several pressure point strikes on Rao and was too weak to hurt him. By this guy's own logic, if we assume like old Toki here or like diseased Toki here scales in this tier and not just young Toki, because again he's arguing that like the old Toki seems to be doing it, or I say old because of white hair, but like diseased Toki, then Rao scales above Toki. Again, like that's shown in the fight. Despite Toki being the much better fighter and beating Rao's ass in a fight, Toki deliberately is shown to be too weak to kill him, even with his fist of strength.
If he does get damaged, he can heal himself. Toki does either take the 5th or 4th spot, depending on if you think the Sakatsu points work against Toki here and how much it does work against him. In my opinion, I think the Sakatsu points...
Again, if we're giving Diseased Toki this, Diseased Toki was too weak to hurt Rao, or too weak to kill him. I don't know how much more bland that could be.
Just because of how the illness left Toki and the fact that Toki, even before his fight with Rao, was still considered a rival to him. But
Yeah.
I leave those little decisions up to
Because Toki was still an incredibly skilled fighter. He was still very powerful. The problem is that, if you're going to argue Diseased Toki scales this high, are we going to ignore the fact that Diseased Toki couldn't beat Rao, even though he did get win condition several times?
Number 3, we have Kaio.
Now, Young Toki. Now, Young Toki's a different story.
Doesn't have too many relevant feats, so this is a pretty easy one to talk about. Kenshiro, after he regains his strength after the Hyo battle, then goes off to learn the secret of Hokuto. Kenshiro then absorbs the Hokuto statue, giving him Master Muso Tensei, not just the weaker forms of that he used on Rao and Kaio earlier on in the series. This does make Kenshiro stronger than what he was when he faced Hyo. Kaio is then able to contest base form Kenshiro and actually
I will say that Kenshiro did get stronger.
him around in certain instances, however loses to Kenshiro later on and gets outdone by raw stamina at points. In the anime, this differs from the manga once again, but in the manga, Kaio is seen in his full demon state and using his strongest technique in the Onryu Tenha, where Kenshiro gets hit by it and proceeds to get up acting like nothing happened. I've seen some people use the anime
The Onrei Tenha is not a technique that deals damage. It is strictly a it's like a gravity control, like void manipulation technique.
fight and say Kaio used his full power when he was already injured and tired / not in his prime, so if he used it and when he was in his prime, he would be above Kenshiro. This kind of argument gets into canonicity territory where there is stuff in the anime that is canon, however, you would have to prove those scenes are canon, which is not the case because it is not in the manga. Either way, even fighting this Kenshiro puts you
Bro, we're gonna ignore Juki's fight in the manga.
above the likes of Black Yakusha, who was stated the rival to Juke, with base Hyo and Ken at the time.
Okay, here's context. The reason Black Yashka is stronger than Juke, because technically he is stated to be stronger, is because his technique beats the Onrei Tenha.
Actually surpassing that, with Kaio and base being in that same territory.
That's
with
fair.
a demon form Kaio only being higher than that, giving him a much stronger argument.
Wait, he said
for
Kaio's
Ryuken
3?
being higher.
Who's 2?
Kaio can summon the actual Dark World, it seems, and this is likely due to him having the full demon form and the strongest demon form we've seen in the series so far, where it not only has a Matoki, but a named Matoki in Genma Yuri. Kaio has the strongest Onryu Tenha we've seen in the series at this point, and would only destroy almost every person within the series, which includes the likes of Toki and Ryuken.
Again, this is debatable. The Onrei Tenha is not a damaging technique. It's just like a void field.
Being a person that never really shown to encounter the full demon form state, and can really only handle Juke, who has seen the Dark World, not even having a Matoki, let alone a named Matoki. And Toki being someone who could probably deduce the Onryu Tenha and Hokuto Ryuken moves, but has never shown to have encountered it. We've seen how Kenshiro handled his first Onryu Tenha when he didn't even know of one, and that wasn't even Kaio at his peak.
Again, the technique doesn't change.
Kaio being this high is not at all a stretch, and really only speaks to how powerful Kaio truly is compared to the rest of the series. At number 2, we have my favorite character.
What? 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 How? How?
In the series, that being Hyo. Now most people are like, wait a minute, Hyo above Kaio, shouldn't that be reversed? And the answer to that is, it's a debatable topic, but in my opinion, no.
Okay.
In this section, I'm really going to be comparing Hyo to Kaio here, and just
Alright.
explaining why he's higher, therefore
Alright.
why he's this high on the list. Hyo has a couple ways of scaling him in comparison to Kaio. The first way is to take his Sorrow God of War state while simultaneously using his Matoki stage demon form and taking on Ken in a pretty heated battle. Unlike the battle against Kaio, Ken was not being suffocated and was not in an area where his opponent was being amped.
Like what Kyle and like how it's been shown the fight after Heel gets his God of War, they're then equals, and there's many statements like with Sachi, Black Yashka, and Kyle that support the idea that both will kill each other if they fight. In the recording, I make it sound like it's more relatively based between Ken and Heel. However, it's more likely they are dead equals rather than Ken is greater than Heel. I think it's this one. Yes. No, it's not. What the fuck? Okay, my bad. I guess it's there we go. Let's see. Son of a bitch. I feel a little bad because like some extensions of this video are just because like I can't find it. Here we go. This is where the fight starts. Never mind. Apparently it's this one. There you go. So here, Kenshiro. I'll cut you. Even if I cut you up a little piece, my soul still won't be at rest. So here's the compared to My Secret Fist. Yours seems like that of a small child. The field in which you use the power of Honorary Tenha, or the field in which you use the power of Honorary Tenha is tiny. I on the other hand can fly through a large distorted space and fight and crush my enemy. Your fist is useless. So I guess Kenshiro can't fly in regards to that other video. So let's just move on here a little bit. We want to get to the actual fight itself. I think it's because I've like had too many programs open that's having trouble loading. Yeah, Pierce Kenshiro grabbing it. So just to clarify, when he said Black Yashka, so Black Yashka only lost this fight strictly because Hio was smart and used a trap beforehand. Otherwise, Black Yashka's technique was beating him, and then Kenshiro just steps in. So let's take a look at this. So here's Hio moving in on Kenshiro. They both block each other. Kenshiro's, kicking him, knocking him aside. How did he do that? You look at Hio's arm in Dimension of Honor Tenna. Hook the Ryukin is no longer a match for me. And here comes Hio. And Kenshiro casually beats the Honorary Tenha. The anime does call that technique frictionless spinning. I'm sorry, I don't understand why it's taking so long to load. So, here's the fight continuation. Now, to be fair, I think the fight's a little closer in this version. This is surely the greatest Hook to fight ever because this Battle of Brothers with like technically again like infinite like fucking infinite like potential is kind of debatable given what we learn later on between the main family. So Kenshiro dodges attack and Kenshiro hits Hio. So clearly already we can see that Kenshiro is superior to Hio in a fight. Now granted you could argue it's because Kenshiro's seen through Hokuto Ryukin. Again, here's Hio trying to move in, but Kenshiro casually, handles him except until Hio busts out the Demon Aura to warp space around him. Again, here's Hio moving in, and here's Kenshiro casually beating the shit out of him. Like, don't get me wrong, I do agree that Hio with the God of Sorrow form is gonna fuck with actual Kenshiro. I think that's fair to say, since he does do that. Right here. Look at this panel. Hio moves in with a brand new technique. And Kenshiro barely dodges it, but he literally just points out that it would have killed him if it instantly hit him. But again, this is a case of like, we're talking about people with insta-kills who can all kill each other. So this is where they go for their final attack. It's over Kenshiro. Like, good technique here. Kenshiro's moving in. And then Hio gets beat by Sachi. However, this is where I want to talk a little bit about that he's leaving out context. Here Hio says... Right here, I'll do this page. Or, this one? Nope, apparently we still got fucking Kyle moving on here. It's fine, Sachi. Even if you hadn't attacked me, I would have been defeated by Kenshiro. Impossible. Hio was attacking knowing that he would die. So, Hio himself, the guy he's claiming, like, very clearly knows about the situation, like, the main primary source of information is admitting that Kenshiro was going to beat him in that encounter.
He himself is not. And like I said earlier, Ken had no issues with Kaio in their fight. But in the Hio fight, a weaker Ken is in more of a heated scuffle. Now the difference presented between the two Kens is rather unknown. However, Ken did get stronger, and Kaio even backs this up. But at the same time, it's not like Kaio was really doing much against this Ken either. Kaio at his absolute peak hits base Ken with a full power Onryu Tenha, and Ken just stands up and doesn't even care.
Onryu Tenha is not an attack that does damage!
All the while, once again, he's in an area that makes him even stronger, making Kaio stronger than what he actually is.
That is not the majority of the fight! You know what? I didn't even want to do this, but you know what? Let's look at the Kaio fight now! If it'll load. I hope I've proven my point by now, my credibility, but you know what? Just in case. Just in case. Okay, let's go. I think it's Merciless Kaio's where the fight starts. I guess his argument for Kaio getting stronger is specifically because Kaio states that he's stronger in the graveyard because he'll never die there, I guess. If that's the case, then fine, but like, he's pointing out the sleeping gas area, like that's somehow where the entire fight takes place. And that's completely not true. Okay, hang on. As the fight start in the last chapter or no? Ugh. Alright, hang on. Can I please get to the fight? Can I please get to the fight? The fight, please. Here we go. Here we start. I think the fight already started a little bit, though. Unfortunately, I think it did start last chapter. Yeah, I think it started last chapter, son of a bitch. Yeah. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Fight started a little earlier. Bruh. Okay, here we go. Here, Kenshou's moving to save Lin. Kyle kicks him down. Kenshiro gets up, super bloodlusted, very clearly angry, and Kyle catches his fist. Let's see how strong you are, and proceeds to slam him to the ground. Kenshiro manages to pick him up, throw him off, and then Kyle's like, this one was a spiritual place for me, it'll also be your grave. In this place, Kyle is immortal. So, I guess that's the argument he's using, that Kyle is stronger here because of that statement. Kyle's a lot stronger than he was before, and then he proceeds to kind of just take on Kenshiro. There's more to the fight. I'm just wanting to point out that he keeps like presenting it like the fight just took place in the gas chamber. It did not. There's several moments outside of it.
Kyle doesn't even really scale to this Ken due to the fact that his strongest attack that we've seen on panel, and that didn't even affect Ken.
The Henri Tenha is not. It's not an AP attack.
People tend to downplay Hyo by saying he got tagged and a hole ripped open through his chest by Sachi, but there's a couple problems here. For starters, that isn't really peak base Hyo, as he's got
Can we talk about the fact that Hyo admits he was gonna lose?
more battle damage and tired after fighting for so long, but at the same time he's also getting stronger. This isn't really a foreign concept, as when you bench press or exercise a muscle, you're getting stronger with that muscle, but your stamina is just decreasing, which is why trainers never recommend, say, something like pull-ups and then incline directly afterwards. A similar concept is being applied here. Even then, it's implied Hyo allowed himself to be hit by Sachi, not Sachi overpowering Hyo, in which this argument does not work to lowball Hyo to be like...
What? Hyo's literally just saying, Sachi, it's okay, it's better this way than you fucking strike me. What? Okay.
Base Kaio, and even just scaling off of the fight against Ken, that debunks this idea as well. Hyo also has another form you could argue is his prime, that being his state after he battles against Ken. Now you're probably thinking, that weak version of Hyo? And the answer is yes. However, he would of course not be the tired and injured self that fought the Ashura, as that is then the prime version of that form. Throughout the franchise of Hokuto as well, it's also implied that just being on the side of good, you become more stronger, as stupid as that sounds. One of the biggest examples of this is Hongwu, changing his mind and clearing the way for himself, becoming more of a good person, and then he gets stronger. So
That's more to him changing his like mentality and like kind of like calming himself down and being like more like
it is also likely
focused.
His peak version would have a stronger base than his evil self, per se.
It's possible.
Also to mention, Hyo has the God of War, where this version wouldn't be the sorrowed state where a main lineage family is using the opposing state in the demon form. Rather, it would be the rageful God of War, the same God of War that completely cucked Kaio, as I mentioned earlier. And you might be arguing,
You know what? You know what? Hang on. Let me. I guess I should do this. I guess I should mention this now. Let's go to the tier of the goddess. Let's see. Here's Kyle. What's the statue of woman doing holy place? Not only that, but spiritual. Not only that, but there's spiritual key surrounding it. Unless this is. Okay, so Kyle touches it, and out of nowhere, his body starts messing up. Look at what's happening to his hands. His veins are turning black. My strength is leaving my body. Bitch, you're even rejecting the blood of Hokuto Ryukin. Again, so now let's go. So that is what basically Kenshiro has. Now let's go back to where Kaio. Fuck. Let me see here. Where is it? Yes, the defeat of Muso Tensei. Pretty sure. Might be Heartbreaking Reunion. Oh yeah, so let's take a look at that Sachi fight real quickly. He talks about. So Sachi moves in to save Kenshiro, and then Sachi proceeds to block the attack with a boulder, and gets completely like one shot by Kaio. And then Sachi's dad has to save him. They throw acid on him. Very simple, very easy. Unfortunately, Sachi's dad does die. I guess I'll put spoilers. Kaio's over here killing them. Sachi makes it underwater. Kaio somehow appears beneath the water. Okay, so here's Kaio. So here's Sachi getting fucked up again. Again, like, he is still standing, but he's shaking. Again, so he can take a hit to be sure. But keep in mind that it's kind of funny that Kaio's not using Hokuto Ryuken on him. He's just punching him to death. But yeah, so like, yeah, I mean, I got all the power of my evil key in order to send you to hell. So, you know, disappear and leave no trace left on the earth. What? Kaio's evil key disappeared, and then Kaio starts freaking out. My armor that keeps my key from escaping is shrinking. So, basically what's happening here is Kaio's armor is shrinking down to like basically trap his evil key inside because the armor is designed to keep his evil key from leaking out. I don't know what that affects his breathing. Maybe it's like the neck piece is getting tighter too. And then again, he breaks the armor, can feel his energy breaking out, proceeds to blast it, and then the god pushes it to the side. My evil key is becoming hesitant. That is the blood of the original Hokuto. This isn't a case of AP power here. It's Kaio being dealt with by the fact that he's like the freaking ghost is just fucking with his actual things, or the god of war here. The quintessence frightened the evil key. So basically, you could just argue that Kenshiro's like demon aura or like god here just scared Kaio to the point where even his demonic aura, like, so that was above Hokuto Shiken. The original Hokuto has such potential. Kenshiro is quite remarkable, and that is why I can't allow a single drop of original Hokuto to exist. It's not like an AP thing. Again, it's more like it fucked with him, like, outside of AP.
Well, didn't Kaio lose in his base form, so in his demon form he could resist it? However, even Juke implies that Kenshiro, at his current state, would need a god of war to take on Kaio, with Juke knowing about Majin Kaio. And we saw Ken use...
I will say for the record, if you argue the demon god could do that to Kaio, I do think Kyo could be Kaio.
...to stomp Kaio. It's also possible that Kaio, even in his demon form, would still have the same outcome, as in that encounter, he didn't even attempt to power up, so you could argue that he knew, even in his demon form, it would still hail the same results.
No, he literally couldn't, because his demon aura was freaking the fuck out. He's literally paralyzed because of what's going on.
Hyo also, as I said earlier, always seems to adapt and get stronger, something even Kaio notes, saying he has infinite potential, and Kaio was even scared of it, which could explain why he went out of his way to have Ken and Hyo try to kill each other. And in the fight against Ken,
That's fair.
Ken is able to dodge more of Hyo's attacks at the beginning, but later Hyo can land some big hits on Ken, showing his power is stronger.
That's only because he gets new fighting style.
It is only getting higher, as well as close.
It just caught Kenshiro off guard.
Gap. And then give Hyo a stronger base form with a stronger god of war, the
Again, like, closing the gap, Hyo admits he would have lost.
ability to grow stronger,
And notice how he doesn't mention that.
as well as his memories not affecting his resolve and his strength, and it's much harder to argue that Kaio is higher. The only argument I can see for Kaio is saying Kaio does scale to Ken, however, like I've already said, that isn't the case. So at the
He does scale to Kenshiro. He does. He fucks him up. He does deal damage to him, and he is able to keep up and fight him after he's got the statue. I think, like, even then, Kyle has a statement where, like, his true, like, North Star fighting style has never been blocked or something like that.
It's much more concrete to argue Hyo is above Kaio.
If you argue for the God of War being able to counter the Demon Aura, I think I can see the argument for Hyo winning, because, again, I think they're all comparable personally, but based on the way he scales it, it shouldn't be.
At number 1, who could have guessed it? We have Kenshiro. There's a lot you can say about Kenshiro, but I feel like in terms of relevance sake as well as time's sake, it's just best to look at his later feats. In his fight against Kaio, it is very clear that Kenshiro is above Kaio. The only times Kaio really gets good hits off or is really just winning is when Kaio is playing cheap in fights under the swamp where Kaio can continue to fight, but Kenshiro is having a hard time breathing. Other instances
I disagree with that to some extent. I think they're both like,
are when Kenshiro allows Kaio to hit him.
that is true. Kenshiro does allow Kyle to hit him, but I think like to say Kyle doesn't get a few good licks in like during the fight's a little
For example,
strange.
a teaching moment and such. It is not at all a stretch to say Kenshiro would destroy Kaio. I do think that is a legitimate claim. Kenshiro at this
Kenshiro will destroy Kyle. Yes, he won.
point has mastered Musou Tensei, where you could say it's kind of like Ultra Instinct in the sense where you can utilize your base as well as you can utilize it as a form as well.
Dude, Musou Tensei is not a fucking amp. It's a technique. So is Ultra Inst. Okay.
There's a lot of non-points I can make about Kenshiro, and a lot of points
Can I just say how weird it is he's showing the Souther fight?
about Part 1 Kenshiro, blah blah blah. But you get the idea. Kenshiro is either beaten or contested and has gotten stronger since those contests against his opponent. Kenshiro, in my opinion, is the strongest character within the series. So with that being said, guys, this was my top 10 on the strongest Fist of the North Star characters. I think this list is pretty reasonable, at least in terms of arguments and stuff.
Leaves out a lot of information.
Definitely a lot more different than the stereotypical, well, you have Ken, then Kaio, then Hyo, then Rao, blah blah blah, right?
That's fair.
Definitely a lot more advanced in those arguments as well, but
Advanced! Bruh! Where are all your scans? Why are you leaving out so much information? Why aren't you showing the manga fights? Don't get me wrong, like, I love the anime fights. In fact, I personally prefer the anime over the manga in a lot of respects. But the anime fights make characters a lot stronger. We gotta look at the manga.
I don't know, I'll let you
Now, if you want a composite, let's talk composite.
decide that. If you guys did enjoy today's video, make sure to like and subscribe, and make sure to turn on notification bell if you're more interested in my videos. And until next time, guys, I'll catch you all later.
Video quality was very nice, but, like, some things are definitely missing there. Again, he doesn't even reference Hyo admits Kenshiro would have beat him. Like, he doesn't even make an argument like, oh, well, they would have killed each other. He doesn't even reference it. Yeah, well, that's the video. He's got a bit of a Rao hate boner. I can't blame him per se, but I think, like, maybe show some more evidence for your claims. Maybe talk about the other counter arguments that are so easily found. Yeah, so with that said, ladies and gentlemen, if you guys want to check out his content further, because it is edited, and at least he does know Fist of the North Star, at least for the most part, it seems pretty well. Oh, hang on. So I want to go over some things here because I didn't think they were important to go over. Black Yashka in the English translation does make this list. I did not put him on a list due to the title saying fighters. I don't consider him a fighter. Okay. In the video, I briefly talked about the dumb idea of putting Sachi at the same tier as Ken and Hyo. As I previously said, for the most of the fight, they are not in the final states. Later on, the scan still stands. Hyo's memory is coming back. Now, the reason it was considered an anti-feed is because Sachi gets bodied by base Kaio. Actually, it can be interpreted at Nora stage, Kaio, Dionora. I didn't include Spirit Sachi because I viewed that as more of a temporary increase in power rather than form. That's fair. If you're confused why I mentioned people like Rao, Falcon, etc. in the Han segment, that is talk about why Han is above other candidates that can be placed at number 10. I did something similar in my Boruto Naruto top 10 video as well, which even if you don't think Han places at 10, which is fair, Kuriyashi is at 10, the 10 ranks, so that will eliminate Falco, Rao, Souther, etc. Highly debatable list. Highly debatable. Again, so as I referenced earlier, there are kind of like two schools of thought when it comes to how it's going Fist of the North Star. You either treat them as all comparable or you treat them like Dragon Ball Z. But I've showed like at least some of the evidence, or at least some of the more details that he kind of leaves out for some reason. So yeah. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys for your time as always. Have a nice day. I will link this video down below in the channel as well. And yeah, take care, everybody.